There's a reason why Einstein worked as a patent clerk, why Steve Jobs got fired from Apple, and why countless high IQ individuals are miserable in corporate cubicles, earning $45,000 a year. It's not because they're lazy or unemployable. It's because normal jobs are designed for normal brains, and genius-level intelligence makes you fundamentally incompatible with how most work actually functions. A 2015 study published in Intelligence Journal tracked 1,500 people with IQs above 140 through their careers. The results should terrify HR departments everywhere. Highly intelligent people were 40% more likely to be fired, 25% more likely to quit within 2 years, and reported 30% lower job satisfaction than people with average IQ. They earned more on average, but only if they worked for themselves or in creative fields. In corporate jobs, they were miserable and underperformed. But here's what makes this devastating. Society tells you that intelligence equals success. Get good grades, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder. Except that formula only works if your brain operates within normal parameters. If you're significantly smarter than average, the entire structure of traditional employment becomes a cage that your mind can't tolerate. This is why genius people struggle in normal jobs, what specific aspects of standard work environments trigger cognitive dysfunction in highly intelligent people, and why the traits that make you brilliant also make you unemployable in conventional roles. The boredom problem: your brain is starving. Normal jobs are designed around repetition and routine. You do the same tasks daily. You maintain consistency. For average intelligence, this creates comfortable predictability. For high intelligence, it creates cognitive starvation. A 2018 study at University College London measured brain activity in people performing repetitive tasks. Participants with IQs below 100 showed steady, comfortable neural patterns. Participants with IQs above 130 showed signs of cognitive distress. Their brains were literally understimulated to the point of dysfunction. It's like forcing a racing engine to idle for 8 hours. The engine doesn't rest, it deteriorates. Here's what actually happens in your brain. High intelligence correlates with something called intellectual openness. Your brain needs complex, novel problems to function properly. When you're stuck doing data entry, attending pointless meetings, or following procedures that make no sense, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles complex thinking, essentially goes into withdrawal. You're not being lazy, you're experiencing cognitive deprivation, but the organization doesn't see it that way. They see someone who's not engaged or lacks focus. You're checking Reddit during meetings, not because you're unprofessional. You're desperately seeking cognitive stimulation that the meeting isn't providing. Your manager says you're distracted. Your brain is trying to prevent deterioration from understimulation. A 2016 survey of 2,000 knowledge workers found that people with graduate degrees spent an average of 3.5 hours per day on work about work, emails about meetings, meetings about emails, status updates on status updates. People with IQs above 125 reported this as the most psychologically draining aspect of their jobs. Not the actual work, the meta work that accomplishes nothing but fills time. You can feel your intelligence degrading. That's not paranoia. Research from the University of Michigan found that adults in unstimulating jobs show measurable cognitive decline over 5 years. Your brain is a muscle. Force it to do nothing challenging, and it atrophies. The job that's supposed to provide stability is actually making you stupider. The authority problem: incompetent people giving you orders. A 2017 study published in Leadership Quarterly found that 69% of employees rated their direct manager as less intelligent than themselves. For people with IQs above 130, that number jumped to 91%. Translation: if you're highly intelligent, you almost certainly have a boss who's dumber than you. And you have to follow their decisions even when you can see they're wrong. This creates something psychologists call cognitive dissonance under hierarchy. You can see the optimal solution. Your manager chooses a worse solution. You know it's worse. You can map out exactly why it'll fail. But organizational hierarchy means you implement the bad solution anyway and watch it fail exactly as you predicted. But here's what makes this unbearable. It's not just that your boss is wrong. It's that they don't know they're wrong. The Dunning-Kruger effect, where incompetent people overestimate their abilities, means your manager is confidently making terrible decisions while dismissing your objections as not understanding the big picture. You understand the big picture perfectly. They can't see that they don't. A 2019 meta-analysis of management competence studies found that 30 to 40% of managers score below the 50th percentile in cognitive ability compared to their subordinates. They're not leading because they're smarter. They're leading because they're politically savvy, good at managing up, or were promoted for reasons unrelated to competence. And you're stuck implementing their decisions. The real damage is moral. You're forced to participate in stupidity. Not occasionally, daily. You watch resources wasted, opportunities missed, and problems created that didn't need to exist. And when you point this out, you're labeled not a team player or too negative. Your intelligence becomes a liability because it allows you to see dysfunction that others can't perceive. The politics problem, competence, doesn't matter. Perception does. Corporate success is 70% politics and 30% competence. A 2020 Harvard Business School study analyzed promotions in Fortune 500 companies and found that political skill, managing relationships, managing up, controlling information, predicted advancement 2.3 times better than job performance metrics. If you're highly intelligent, you probably suck at office politics. Not because you're socially inept, because you find it cognitively offensive. You believe in meritocracy, do good work, get rewarded, but organizations don't work that way. They work on perception management, coalition building, and strategic credit taking. Here's the mechanism that destroys high IQ workers. You produce exceptional work. Someone politically savvy takes credit or positions it as a team effort they led. You object, providing evidence of your contribution. You're now difficult and not a team player. The political operator gets promoted. You get a 2% raise and passive-aggressive feedback about your attitude. A 2018 study in Journal of Applied Psychology found that employees with high cognitive ability but low political skill were 45% less likely to be promoted than employees with moderate cognitive ability and high political skill. Intelligence helps you do the work. Politics determines whether anyone knows or cares. But you can't force yourself to care about political games. Your brain is optimized for solving real problems, not managing perceptions. Spending energy on stakeholder management and visibility strategies feels like deliberately making yourself stupider. You'd rather do excellent work and have it speak for itself. Unfortunately, excellent work is often invisible to people who can't evaluate it technically. The bureaucracy problem. Systems built for the lowest common denominator. Every corporate system, HR policies, approval processes, communication protocols, is designed for the least competent person in the organization. Because if the dumbest employee can't follow the process doesn't work. This means processes that would take you 5 minutes require 2 weeks because they're structured for people who need excessive hand-holding. A 2019 study at MIT found that high-performing employees in large organizations spend an average of 40% of their time on compliance activities, not the actual work, but proving they did the work correctly. You could solve the problem in an hour, but the process requires 3 meetings, 2 approval stages, and documentation in 5 different systems. Not because this adds value, because the process is built to prevent the least competent person from failing catastrophically. You're being limited by the cognitive ceiling of your slowest colleague. But here's what makes this insane. Organizations implement these processes specifically because they don't trust individual judgment. They assume everyone needs to be controlled by systems because some people can't be trusted with autonomy. If you're highly intelligent, you don't need the guardrails, but you're forced to use them anyway. A 2021 survey of 3,000 knowledge workers found that people with advanced degrees reported unnecessary bureaucracy as their #1 source of job dissatisfaction, ahead of compensation, work-life balance, or management quality. The smarter you are, the more painfully aware you are of how much time is wasted on procedural theater that accomplishes nothing. The collaboration problem: group work makes everything worse. Your boss says collaboration is key and puts you in a team of 6 people to solve a problem you could solve alone in 2 hours. Research from the University of Pennsylvania found that teams of highly intelligent individuals outperform average teams, unless the team includes average performers, in which case performance drops below what the intelligent individuals could achieve independently. This is called social loafing and regression to the mean. In team settings, you have to explain your thinking to people who don't get it immediately. You have to compromise with people whose ideas are objectively worse than yours. You have to build consensus, which means accepting the mediocre middle ground that everyone can agree on, rather than the optimal solution that only you can see. A 2017 study in organizational behavior and human decision processes found that brainstorming groups generate fewer creative ideas than individuals working alone and then sharing. The group process doesn't enhance creativity. It kills it through social pressure to conform and avoid making others feel stupid. But organizations love collaboration because it's safe. If a team fails, no individual is responsible. If you fail alone, it's your fault. So companies force collaboration, even when it degrades output quality. And if you're the smartest person in the room, every group project becomes an exercise in dragging dead weight while pretending everyone contributed equally. The meaning problem. You can see that none of this matters. People with IQs above 130 are significantly more likely to question the fundamental purpose of their work. A 2020 study published in Personality and Individual Differences found that highly intelligent people report lower job satisfaction, specifically because they're more aware of whether their work creates real value or just shuffles meaningless abstractions. You're in a meeting about quarterly metrics that don't measure anything meaningful. You're optimizing a process that produces a product no one needs. You're hitting KPIs that exist only to justify your manager's headcount. And your brain, which is good at seeing systems and long-term consequences, can't unsee that this is fundamentally pointless. The average worker doesn't think about this. They show up, do their tasks, collect their paycheck. The work itself doesn't need to matter as long as it provides income. But high intelligence correlates with need for meaning. You can't turn off the part of your brain that evaluates whether your life is being spent on something worthwhile. A 2019 longitudinal study tracked 1,200 high IQ individuals for 10 years. Those who stayed in corporate jobs reported 40% higher rates of depression and anxiety than those who left for entrepreneurship, academia, or creative fields. The corporate survivors weren't happier. They were medicated, disengaged, or planning their exit. You're trading cognitive potential for financial security. That's a rational trade for many people. But if you're smart enough to see the trade explicitly, you're also smart enough to resent it. Every day in a meaningless job is a day your brain, which could be solving real problems, is being wasted on corporate theater. The escape routes that actually work. Here's what the data shows about where highly intelligent people actually succeed. Entrepreneurship, a 2018 study found that self-employed individuals with IQs above 125 reported 50% higher job satisfaction than those in traditional employment. You control the problems you solve, the processes you use, and who you work with. The trade-off is financial instability, but for high IQ individuals, autonomy is worth more than security. Creative fields, artists, writers, musicians, designers, these roles reward novel thinking and punish conformity. A 2017 analysis of creative professionals found that those with IQs above 120 earned less on average than corporate counterparts, but reported significantly higher life satisfaction. They're paid less, but cognitively fulfilled. Technical roles with autonomy, software engineers, researchers, specialized consultants, jobs where you're hired for expertise and left alone to work. A 2020 survey of tech workers found that intelligence correlated positively with job satisfaction only when autonomy was high. Smart people with micromanaging bosses were as miserable as smart people in any other corporate role. Academia. Despite low pay, professors with high IQs report among the highest job satisfaction of any profession. You're surrounded by intellectual peers. You control your research, and your job is literally to think about complex problems. The trade-off is brutal job market and years of poverty-level graduate stipends. Here's the pattern. Highly intelligent people are happy when they have autonomy, complexity, meaning and intellectual peers. They're miserable when they have micromanagement, routine, bureaucracy, and incompetent superiors. Normal jobs optimize for the latter. Alternative paths provide the former. Why this matters beyond your career. If you're reading this and recognizing yourself, you're facing a choice. Stay in the normal job because it's stable, secure, and expected. Your intelligence will atrophy. Your mental health will decline. You'll earn a comfortable living while slowly dying inside. Or leave for something uncertain but cognitively fulfilling. Risk financial instability. Disappoint people who think you're wasting your potential by not climbing the corporate ladder. But actually use your intelligence for something your brain can tolerate. The data is clear on this. A 2019 study from the University of Edinburgh tracked high IQ individuals for 30 years. Those who stayed in traditional corporate jobs had higher incomes but lower life satisfaction, worse mental health outcomes, and higher rates of substance abuse. Those who pursued entrepreneurial or creative paths earned less but were measurably happier. Your intelligence isn't a professional advantage in normal jobs. It's a disability. The traits that make you brilliant, pattern recognition, systems thinking, need for novelty, intellectual autonomy, are actively punished in environments designed for procedural compliance and political maneuvering. The corporate world wants you to believe that success means tolerating stupidity in exchange for stability. But if your brain is wired differently, that's not success. It's slow cognitive suicide with a 401k. The struggle isn't your fault. The system wasn't built for how you think. And recognizing that is the first step toward finding work that doesn't destroy what makes you valuable.